Welcome back to the Metamorphosis Journals. This is the story of how I thought I met the man of my dreams and ended up living a nightmare, and how I put the pieces together of what happened after finding a box of journals that I had kept for 20 years that I had written and totally forgotten about. The names and identifying details have been changed for protection and privacy. After the movies, I really miss the natural beauty of California, and I'm really excited when Jim's aunt offers us a weekend at their family cabin in the mountains. And I'm wondering if maybe I'll finally find a spot that gives me the same peace and tranquility that I so love. But my expectations are quickly adjusted when I am informed of the dress code. We arrive to pull into this big horseshoe driveway surrounded by perfectly manicured lawns and flower gardens. And I am excited that night when I spy the first sign of wildlife and quietly call the boys out to watch a couple deer nibbling on some shrubbery. When there is this shrill scream and several women run out of the house next door yelling at the deer and shooing them away from these few plants not surrounded by deer netting. The contrast to my vacations in Northern California could not be more stark. The homes here are surrounding a golf course, a lake, and a lodge that looks like a European castle. The lodge at my family's vacation spot is this rustic barn-like structure with sharp angles and a depiction of massive horns emblazoned on the outside. And while I had heard there was a dress code for dinner, I did not know that there was a dress code required throughout the property. So I'm on the hiking trail and I come across a woman in her tennis whites and a handbag. And I think my jaw nearly hit the trail. And I do not have any recollection of what I was wearing, but it wouldn't surprise me if my ensemble caused a similar reaction on her end. But we do have a lovely day. We're sledding and skiing and skating in this private ice skating rink. And we get ready to head to dinner. It's a formal dinner hosted for the property owners and their guests. I have packed up the boys' button-down shirts, ties, slacks, the clothes usually reserved for the most special church occasions. I run my hands down each to smooth out the wrinkles and try to clean out the mud off their best pair of tennis shoes. And then I notice Jim's aunt is beside herself, and when I ask if everything's okay, she tells me Jim just told her that he's forgotten his collared shirt, and he can't go into the dining room without the proper attire. So fortunately, after a frantic search through every closet, his aunt is able to conjure up a shirt, which Jim somehow manages to squeeze into for the evening. In the lobby of the lodge, Jim's aunt is just appalled and scoffing at the casual attire of some of the guests. I walk the boys downstairs for the kids' dinner, where there are chicken fingers and pizza laid out to this indoor mini golf course and arcade. As we approach the kids' party, I'm embarrassed over the clothes worn by my 5 and 7-year-old. All around me, even the littlest of boys is wearing pleated khaki pants, a starched white shirt, a blue blazer with brass buttons, polished dress shoes, and a red tie. I do chuckle, though. There's this boy about 8. He walks by wearing what looks like his 14-year-old brother's dress clothes. So apparently Jim wasn't the only one who forgot that night. As we sit down to dinner in the large panel dining room, we are offered course after course of classic country club fare, dinner rolls with dollops of piped butter, wedge salad, choice of chicken or steak, and a slice of cheesecake. And it's during the dessert course we are served a snifter of brandy and the toasts get underway. And this really drunk man stands up and starts rambling about his pride and the standards and traditions maintained by their community. Then he raises his snifter, pauses, and shouts, "To old school!" And the entire room, hundreds of people, lift their snifters and echo in this loud chorus, "To old school!" And there I am, this homeschooled California belly dancing hippie, lifting my snifter to old school while kicking Jim under the table and trying not to spit out my brandy. It's about this time a beautiful old home comes up for sale just down the street from our little house and yard. And we have these thoughts of how much easier it would be if the boys and their enthusiastic spirits had a little more space. So we make the leap. And we plan to do all the moving ourselves to save money. Jim suggests we hire a babysitter to help with the kids while we pack, and then mentions he has a graduating student at school who babysits. So we hire Aria to come several mornings a week to give us some time to pack without the stress of watching the boys. And somehow that's not how things turn out. Instead of packing, I keep finding Jim hanging out with Aria and the boys. I am trying to do my regular work, packing, and getting increasingly frustrated. The boys love Aria. She buys them little presents and lets them have soda, even though I've asked her not to. Jim says I should just be happy they're hitting it off so well and to let the little things go. I find Jim having lunch with Aria and the boys at a pizza shop regularly, and I don't get the point of hiring her to take care of the kids if he's always hanging out with them. I ask him to stop, and he agrees that he'll stop the lunches and will contribute more. A week later, I'm running errands around town when I see all four of them in the window of the pizza shop laughing and eating together. I try to discuss it with him that evening, and he gives me this long spiel about how he doesn't want to be rude to Aria, and I feel mute, as I often do. My pleas fall on deaf ears. I do not know how to be heard. And the move is such a huge amount of work, but the new house is beautiful, and the boys love it. We adopt our first pet. It's an orange and white tabby cat. Aria, Jim, and the boys decide he will be named Hobbs. It turns out to be the perfect name, but being left out of the naming of our family pet, it stings. Hobbs is the most affectionate, sweet, rule-breaking, badass cat. He keeps finding ways to escape and visit all the neighbors. We find and fix the perfect slits he made in the accordion folds of the window air conditioning units, and the clean slice along the screen window, yet he still keeps finding ways to get out. Our neighbors laugh about how Hobbs stares in the bedroom window in the middle of the night, sending their cat into a tizzy. One day the Girl Scouts come knocking on the door, not with cookies, but cradling Hobbs in their arms. He had joined them for their entire meeting. The pastor from the church across the street tells us how Hobbs, in the middle of a church service, sauntered right down the center aisle and up to the front of the church to stand with her while she preached her sermon one Sunday. After the move, Aria continues babysitting because Jim says she needs the work and is insistent that it is so helpful to us. Then Jim and Aria start a 2-person book club, and the codependent people pleaser in me makes them tea and cookies for their one-on-one meetings. Then I start to notice Jim's disappearing for long stretches of time, and I come to see that he is sneaking off down the block or so, or to a nook in the yard to have these lengthy phone conversations with Aria. And he's sending her pictures and stories and poems. I recognize this behavior from when we first met. I am in my early 30s, feeling washed up and like a fifth wheel in my own home and family. I confront him more than once, and I am told over and over again that I'm overreacting, jealous, unreasonable. But the breaking point comes one night at dinner when Sean is talking about Aria and her latest gift. And then he says, "I wish Aria was my mom." It is like a spear through the heart, and also clear outward validation that there is something really wrong with this situation, despite constantly being told that I'm crazy. I tell Jim he absolutely must cut off contact with her, and she is no longer welcome in our home or around our kids. He tries to argue with me and tell me I'm overreacting. He won't budge, but neither will I. I am shaking as I say, if you don't break off contact, I will call her parents and tell them that this is inappropriate and she needs to stay away. With the threat of the outside world seeing his behavior, he agrees to stop seeing and talking to her. It feels like my family and marriage is literally on the line. Yet somehow I'm made to feel awful and manipulative for threatening him. But the connection with Aria ends, and life starts to settle back to normal. We work on fixing up our new home. The boys are growing up and getting a little easier. We have a bit more time and money. We have regular dinner dates and outings. Hobbs continues providing endless affection and entertainment. But there are more flags. And like when Jim brings me to chaperone the prom with him, from across the room, one of the teachers, the woman the male teachers call the hot one, walks up to him, looks in his eyes while straightening his tie. She seems surprised when I walk up to them and am introduced as Jim's wife. There's something about that interaction that is really intimate. I wouldn't walk up and adjust the tie of someone I wasn't extremely close to. Maybe my brother, my dad, I don't know. I mentioned that I found it inappropriate, and he tells me I'm being ridiculous, jealous, imagining things. But years later, this interaction still makes my spidey senses tingle. Then there was one of Jim's high school reunions. Lots of his friends were going and bringing their spouses, but Jim tells me it would be a late night and was sure I would be bored, so he just wanted to go on his own. I'm hurt, but I host a party the night before for all his friends. I clean the house, make tons of food. During the party, Jim and his friends barely speak to me. I feel like the help in my own home. And while I'm finally talking with one of his friends, she stops literally mid-sentence and exclaims, "Oh my goodness, why am I talking to you? I should be talking to my friends." Then turns and walks away. And at another point, Jim snaps at me, saying my name in this biting tone about something he wanted me to do. One of his closest friends looks at me and says, "I hope he doesn't speak to you like that often." I don't let on that he does. The bumps are getting bigger and more frequent. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear the rest of the story, please like and subscribe. You can also visit metamorphosistoolbox.com, where I have a blog with a lot of the resources and healing tools that I used in my own journey.